Hi everyone, welcome. I just want to let everyone know that we have Vinod with us today, Lobo. He's the founder and CEO of Learning Upgrade, and we also have with us Drew Robinson. And today we're going to host a webinar called Getting Started with Your COABE XPRIZE Learning Upgrade Account. And this webinar is also made possible today with support of Learning Upgrade. So I will keep this short and sweet and turn this right over to Drew.
Alrighty, thank you very much. So I'm gonna share my slides here. All right, so I just want to welcome everybody. I know quite a few of you have already gotten started. Vinod and I have done a few webinars with COABE over the last few months now. And so our first one was we were just introducing Learning Upgrade, who we are, and talking about our smartphone app. And then the most recent one we did was for the community's competition. And so I just want to do a quick overview of the Adult Literacy X Prize. For those of you that are new, what is the community's competition? I'll do a brief overview of our app, but the focus of today's webinar is for those of you who already have a pilot with us, you already have a community's competition account with us. I want to show you how to dive into our LMS, add students, customize student accounts, view reports, and a few other best practices that'll really help you optimize things for your license. So, we are on Zoom here today, and so if you have any questions that come up in real time, feel free to use that chat box. I see that there's already some activity there, so feel free to use that chat box with any questions that you have, and then we'll be able to get to those questions as they come in. And then we'll also be able to stop. We're going to have a few pauses here where we'll be able to address those questions in real time. Okay, so for those of you that didn't have an opportunity to attend our first communities competition webinar, I just want to go over a quick recap, and this will also be useful for those of you who did attend. So we started out talking about the Adult Literacy X Prize. And so the Adult Literacy X Prize started a few years ago, and it was a competition to see if a company could develop an app that would get measurable gains with our low literate adults. So this was started with the Barbara Bush Foundation, prize money presented by Dollar General. And so as a team here at Learning Upgrade, we entered into that competition. There were entries from all over the globe. And that first cut was a little over 100 teams made it. Then we made the 8 semifinalists, and finally the 5 finalists. We found out in February that we were the co-grand prize winner. And so that was the first phase there for the Adult Literacy X Prize. So what does that mean to be a grand prize winner? So there was a 16-month field test with 12,000 adult learners. And what it really showed is that the Learning Upgrade app is proven and validated. They used the CASAS test 12 months apart for the pre and post, and this was all with the low literate adults that are at a 3rd grade reading level or below. And most importantly, the gains that the learners showed was greater than what they would have achieved in a year of classroom study alone, and that was shown by looking at the control of learners in a classroom setting that didn't have Learning Upgrade versus those that did. So let's take a look at the Learning Upgrade app. The Learning Upgrade app has 21 courses. We have English, math. We also have math prep for GED and HiSET. We cover reading, writing, listening, math. It's aligned to the K-12 Common Core and the adult CCRS standards. But what really makes our app special is that we teach using songs, video, and games. And so, we always kind of knew that our app, was something that was going to move the needle. We had validation to show that. But when we moved from just being, available on computers to having a smartphone app, what we really saw was a massive jump in the engagement. And so the songs, video, the gamification, and then also the binge learning, similar to what you see with Netflix with binge watching. With Learning Upgrade on a smartphone or a tablet, now we have binge learning. And so we really see an increase, a dramatic increase in that time on task. Learning Upgrade is also available everywhere. And so what you'll be able to do is, your learners can start on a smartphone, but they can also access their accounts if you have a computer lab or if you have Chromebooks at your site. So the final thing, I covered before getting into things in our first training, we covered the validation through the XPRIZE, but I just wanted to quickly show you a study we did at Sweetwater. And it's what I'm talking about, in that earlier session where we were going over the increase on that time on task. And so this was the first group that we really went, where we had the first group where we did a study where they were using Learning Upgrade in a computer lab. And then we introduced the smartphone app to see how their numbers would change. And so the very first thing that we noticed was an increase in the amount of time that learners were spending on the app. And so we saw there, it jumped from about 1.5, 2 hours up to 4 hours. And what that did was accelerate their path to getting through the test they were taking. In this case, CASAS, but we're also working in the math department there. So that was for the high set math. And you'll see here for the students with that CASAS of 210 or below on their initial test, they were averaging in a 10-week period 7.8 points of gain. And again, so if you'd like to learn more about this or see it more in detail, you'll be able to reference our first presentation on the COABE resources page. You can also reach out to us. You can email me, drew@learningupgrade.com, and I can provide you with some more information on this. The focus of today's webinar is going to be on getting started. And so everybody that's on this webinar, some of you might already have your Communities Competition Learning Upgrade account. For those of you that don't, in the invite for this webinar, there was a link, and you can just click that link. You'll fill out some information on yourself and also on your program, and we'll be able to provide you with a free account through the Communities Competition that's good all the way through August 31st. So for getting started with Learning Upgrade, everything is structured around these 4 main steps. Number 1 is teacher training, which is what we're going to be doing in today's session. And what I'll be covering in the teacher training are steps 2, 3, and 4. So the first is student onboarding. I'm going to show you how your learners can self-enroll, how you can enroll them as a teacher. Number 3, I'm going to show you how to motivate and track your students. And so that's by looking at reports in real time, individualized course reports, and then also session data to view when your learners are logging in, when they're completing lessons, and how many lessons they're completing. And you'll also be able to see a device breakdown. So if they're using a smartphone at home versus, a Chromebook at school, you'll be able to see that. Then the 4th step is to celebrate student success. A lot of our adult learners haven't had a lot of success in their academic careers. And so we really want to make a point of it to celebrate when they are having success. So after clicking that link in the email, or for those of you that have already signed up with us, you're going to get an email from me, and it's going to give you instructions on getting started. So even if you didn't attend this session or view any other sessions, with this email, you'll have everything you need to get started. So there'll be 2 blocks. The first is student self-enrollment. The second is teacher-guided enrollment. We're finding that almost all of our Communities Competition teams are using the student self-enrollment. And so that's why I have it featured here. So what you'll see in the top line is you'll have a class code that'll be 7 digits. But the most important thing you'll want to look at is the 3rd line. You can print your class code with student instructions here, and then we'll have a link to your class code sheet. Now on the class code sheet, there'll be instructions on how your learners self-enroll with screenshots of each screen on the app that they'll need. And then the most important is that 7-digit code will also be on their class code sheet, and it'll look like this. So all of you are going to be applying through COABE, and the COABE Communities Competition code is 1177. And so that code will also be the first 4 digits of your class code. The next 3 digits will be randomized and different for each site, but the first 4 are always going to be that 1177. After clicking on that class code sheet to have your learners self-enroll and view those instructions, you'll see a link to our login page, and then you'll have your own teacher tracking account, and that's where we'll provide you with a username, password, and school ID. You'll be logging in with that account to view and monitor your class, to see reports, And that's how you're going to be accessing all of the information that I'll be showing you today. So for those of you that aren't looking to do the student self-enrollment, we also have a guide for teacher enrollment. This is in the email, and I'll be walking you through these steps in the training today. Some other things we'll be covering is just some general getting started as a teacher. I'll be showing you how to log in, but I also want to let everyone know that we can also do multiple teachers at a site. So if you're at a community college and you have 10 or 15 teachers that you all want on one account, we can do that. And then on top of that, we also have admin accounts. So if you're a director or a coordinator and you want to be able to view site-wide data and see how 10 teachers at your site, how their learners are performing and see a breakdown in those reports, we do have admin accounts by request. And so that's an option. And then for today, diving into the LMS, we're going to be onboarding learners. I'll show you how to do the self-enroll and the teacher-guided enrollment. I want to show you how you can track that enrollment to make sure that none of your learners are falling behind. Show you how to organize classes. This is a big one where if you have, let's say 5 different groups that are coming in, I want to make sure that we have individualized classes where you can see those reports. Edit student accounts, that's making edits to their names, usernames, moving them ahead in a course if you'd like them to start in the middle. And then finally, once your learners are logged in, completing lessons, how do we view those reports? So now we're going to jump into the demo here. All right, and so here we are, and you'll see this is what we call the teacher menu. So for those of you that have a Learning Upgrade tracking account, in your email, you were provided with a username, password, and school ID. For those of you that don't currently have one, make sure that you fill out the pilot form in your COABE webinar email, and then I'll be able to email you information to your account. So what you'll see is, you go to learningupgrade.com, you're going to click login, and when you log in, you're going to see the teacher menu. And everything in the teacher menu is built around these 5 blue tabs at the top. So students, courses, classes, teachers, and reports. By default, we're always going to start in the students tab. And this is where I want to start showing you, how to get started. So as I showed you in the slides, the very first option, the most popular option for onboarding learners is through student self-enrollment. So there's a link to the PDF guide in your email, but you can also find it once you log in with this button here for self-enroll. And this is exactly what it looks like when you click it from the email as well. But you have your 7-digit class code. Yours is going to start with 1177. And then you'll see the instructions. So you can print this off and hand these out to all of your learners. You can text it or email it as a PDF attachment. And so the learners are going to download the Learning Upgrade app, and then they'll see the instructions when they're on their smartphone. So they're going to click Get Started, and then they'll be able to pick a track between English or math. Once they select their course, they'll enter their first name, last name, and then in the class code field, they're going to enter that 7-digit class code. They'll be provided with a username, password, and school ID. This allows them to access their account, anywhere, any web-enabled device. And then once they have that, they'll be able to start playing their course there. So that's the student self-enrollment. That's included in the email. The second option I want to show you is to add students as a teacher, so teacher-guided enrollment. So next to self-enrollment, you're going to see where it says Add New Students. So we'll click on Add New Students, and our student uploader will show here. So in the uploader, the first thing you're going to see is the name format. So you can pick a few formats, first, last, last, first, or if you'd like to upload student IDs, you can do that. You can grab information if you have a spreadsheet with your students' names. And so what you'll want to do is just click in the entry column here. And then what you can do is copy and paste a list in like I just did. So I just grabbed these from a spreadsheet. I had 10 names, first name, last name, and you can just copy and paste. We'll show you the format here, first name, last. And the second thing you'll want to check is next to student names in parentheses, we see 10. So I know that that copy and paste was successful. If you'd also like to import customized usernames, passwords, student IDs, we do have those import options, and you would just add additional columns to your spreadsheet. So I see that that was successful. Now I'm going to change some of the other student information. So for grade, I'm going to scroll down and set those to adult. For courses, we covered the course offerings in our first training, but you'll see here we have placements. So if you don't know where your learners are, they can take an assessment with those, or you can directly enroll your learners in any of our courses. So that's the course selection. For those of you that you have data on your students already, what you'll want to do is go to the Learning Upgrade website at learningupgrade.com. You'll see in the main header here, you'll see courses. When you click on courses, under each block you'll see options. You can view a lesson list. You can also view CASAS and placement tables. So if you want to see how things line up, so if your learners have already taken the CASAS test, we have their scores already. Okay, they're a 205. Then we'll say, okay, perfect, they're in English Upgrade 2. And then when we're selecting our courses, we'll know which one to put them in. Same thing with the math. They've already taken these tests. Again, you go to courses in the main menu, and then in the English block and the math block, you'll see lesson list and placement tables. So the placement tables are a great way to take your existing tests and enroll your learners into Learning Upgrade. For those of you that just want to see what's in each lesson, you can also click on our lesson list, and in the lesson list, we'll show you all of the courses and then every single lesson. Each one of our courses has 60 lessons, so you'll see all 60 lessons for each course. And so that's something you'll probably want to look at. You can reference when you're creating these accounts, or when your learners are self-enrolling, they'll have the option to choose those courses as well. If you have no data on your students, you don't know where they are, then you can just click the math and English place. And in those, we're going to, when they first log in, they'll take a quick placement. And then based on their performance, we're going to enroll them in the appropriate course. So now we're going to click Enroll. We'll see each one of the students go through. The courses will be added. So all 10 students enrolled. And so if I wanted to enroll more, I could do that. In this case, I'm going to click Done. And we'll see we've added additional students to our class here. So that's going to be the self-enroll and the add new students. So you have those two options if you're going to be creating new accounts for your students. Now, the third option I want to show you is something that's going to be useful if you are at a site where there's multiple teachers and the students are going to be showing up in multiple classes amongst those teachers. So let's say you have one teacher who has 100 students and they've created accounts for all 100 students, but now there's an after-school teacher, there's a weekend instructor, there's someone else that needs access to those same accounts. So in that case, you'll see your third onboarding option, which is Add Enrolled. And so this is a way that you can reference the learners that have been created during self-enroll or the teacher enroll. So when you click on Add Enrolled, now you're going to see a list of the students who are already in your class. But on the right-hand side here, you're going to see a list of the students that are at your site or your school. And so these are all the students that are at your site but aren't currently on your list of the current class. So you can just go through and populate your class by clicking Add, and just click Add next to any students that you would like. You can also filter down and search for students by name, ID, or grade. And that's a nice way to quickly populate your class if you know that your students already have accounts. And so those three options are the onboarding options. So just to quickly review those, we have self-enroll, we have teacher-guided enrollment, and then we have adding existing students. So for those of you that are just getting started with your communities competition license, this is the very first step you want to take. You want to be able to create accounts and then get those into the hands of your learners. So for your learners that are self-enrolling, they're going to be shown their username and password. If you're going to be creating accounts for your students, then you're going to need to provide that to your learners. So what you'll see here is next to self-enroll, the button for print passwords. And if we click on print passwords, we're now going to see all of our accounts here, and you'll have a few options for how you want to view those. You can click on a full list if you just want one spreadsheet that you have at your desk. You can also provide your learners with one-pagers. And so we'll see here, we'll provide their name, username, password, school ID, and then we'll also include some instructions. So if they want to access their account on a computer, or if they want to access it on an iOS or Android device, we'll walk them through the instructions of going to the respective app store, downloading the app, and getting started. So these one-page smartphone guides are really useful, and we find those are effective when your learners have never heard of Learning Upgrade and you need to get them started and logging in right away. So we've created student accounts either by self-enrollment, enrolling them as a teacher, or adding existing. We've now provided those learners with their login information, so they have their username, password, and school ID. Once the learners have their information, then we want to get them started right away. So sometimes we have what we call an onboarding party, and we talked about these in our first session. If you're going to have your learners self-enroll, you can have all of them enroll in your classroom, for those of you that have a classroom setting. And the key is to have them complete 1 or 2 Learning Upgrade lessons in that onboarding party. And for those that aren't, request that they do it within a day, 2 days, but make sure when they first get their Learning Upgrade account, they've downloaded the app, we can get them to start completing lessons right away. We see a huge jump in time on task over the course of the year. And so from that point on, the account creation is going to be out of your hands. The learners have been, their accounts have been created. And so now what you want to do is 2 things. Organize your classes and monitor student activity. So the first thing I want to show you is to organize your classes. So we see here, in this case, we've created, we've onboarded our students, we copy and pasted through the add new. Maybe we had learners self-enroll. So my current classes, when you have your account, you'll start with just 1. But here we have weekends, we have evenings, and then we have our demo account here. And so to see those, what we're going to do is go to our classes tab. And in our classes tab, we'll get a chance to see the classes that we have, and then also the number of students that are in each one. If you need to create another one, then what we can do is, for this case, we'll just call it COABE Demo, and then we'll click Create. And you can do this for as many classes as you need. So when you're organizing your class, you're getting students onboarded. This is a great way to make sure that all of your students are organized. And that way, when we start diving into the reports, all of your reports are going to be clean, short, and showing you only the information that you need. So once we've created this class, we can go back to the Students tab. And now we can go to our COABE Demo, the class we just created. And we'll see that it's empty. A video will play that will walk you through instructions if you need to see how to utilize these onboarding options again. So in this case, we've already, let's say, onboarded all of our learners to another class. So let's just click Add Enrolled. And now we can go through and we will populate our new class. And so we'll just add a few of these learners here. We go back to the teacher menu. And so now we have these 4 accounts. So in our new class, COABE Demo, these are the learners that just onboarded in our onboarding party this morning. They've all completed a few lessons. So now what we want to do is monitor the activity. We want to see how they're performing, making sure nobody's falling behind, making sure nobody's struggling. And then, of course, that final step is celebrating the success for those that are completing entire lessons and courses. So the very first one I want to show you is the Student Monitor. And this is how we view our classes in real time. So if you're having an onboarding party or if your learners are completing lessons in a classroom setting, our most popular is this Student Monitor, and you'll see it here in all caps. Student Monitor, you're going to see the courses loading below, and then you're going to see each one of your student courses represented here. So we'll see for Dakota for the demo is enrolled in all of our courses, just so you can see all of the abbreviations. But for Algebra Upgrade, your CAU, Comprehension, and then for our English and Math, we just do an E and then the number for the grade. So English Upgrade 1, English Upgrade 2, Math Upgrade 4 and 5, you'll see the abbreviations there. So you'll see all of your students, and if you have a long list, you'll need to utilize the scroll here so you can view everybody at the bottom. But what we like to do to take out the inactive courses is to just go on a level sort. And with the level sort, now we're just going to see your students, that have logins and activities. So this first one here for English kindergarten is a good example. As I mentioned earlier, and we talked about in our first training, every single one of the Learning Upgrade courses has 60 lessons. So you'll see those from 1 to 60. And each one of these lessons, they start on 1, and then to move from one lesson to the next, they need 75% or better. So if they get 75 to 89, they're going to get a bronze. If they get 90 up to 94, they'll get a silver. And then from 95 to 100, they're going to get a gold. And so you can see those represented in the key here, and those colors will represent how they've performed. And what you'll also see, and you don't have any on the demo here, but it'll show red if they didn't get above 75%. And that means they have to repeat that lesson again to move their score up. The student monitor is a good way, when learners are just getting started, to monitor their activity. So for Antonia here on Math Upgrade 1, we can hover over any one of these lessons and see how the learner is performing. So we'll see the name, level 12 is addition facts for 2s. We'll see the date that it was played, so that was May 21st. And this is a really nice way to see if any of your learners are struggling on a content area, because we'll tell you their score and then also the number of times they've attempted that. So if we were to hover over one of these and see that the learner has attempted it multiple times and they had a low score, that's an opportunity to work with them one-on-one. Maybe if you see an entire class struggling with a content area, you can have a whole class lesson. But the student monitor here, this is a great way for real-time data on an entire class, and you can hover over any one of those lessons to see how the learner's doing. So, we see here, we have Dakota and Antonia. Let's say they were struggling, or we just wanted to get more information. Dakota here in English Upgrade K has this entire course finished. So English Upgrade Kindergarten's completed, and that learner has 75% or better on all. So Dakota has earned a bronze certificate. So once we've looked at that class information, that real-time data on our class, now we want to do a little more of a deep dive on the individualized course. So that's where we're going to leave the Students tab behind and go to the Courses tab. And now instead of the student showing one per row, it's going to look more like the Student Monitor, where we show each course on their own row. And you'll notice now that each course has its report button. So for English K, we saw that that was completed. We can click on the report. And now what we're going to get is some really nice information on how they're performing. And so the high score is going to show in orange. The low score or initial score is going to show in blue. And so what you want to keep an eye out for here is any of the valleys that haven't been filled in. That means they were struggling on an area and haven't worked it up to that gold standard. So you'll see on some of these, we hover over. So on our initial score, 76 was words A to I. And then this learner was able to move that up to 100%. Same here for short vowels. But for this one here, we're looking at the level 32, and that's beginning consonant blends. And so this is an opportunity. We see that valley hasn't really been filled in. Learner just got by with a 75 to move on to the next. And so this is a great way through these individualized reports to see how your learners are doing on each one of the lessons. If we continue scrolling down, we'll get even more information. So you'll see each one of the levels in the course here. Similar to our graph, we're going to see high scores and initial scores, but we're also going to get a chance to look at the amount of times played, when they completed the lessons, and how much time they spent on each lesson. And so similar to looking at the student monitor, when you can view in and say, okay, this learner's really struggling here, I can work with them on this, that's what you're going to want to use this table for. So you'll see in a few instances, our learner played 4 times, spent about 20 minutes, but this one jumps out. They started out with a 59 on short vowels, eventually made their way up to 100%, but it took 7 attempts, and they spent a little over an hour working on that. So these are the individualized course reports. And again, these are going to be available for every single course that your learners are enrolled in. All you need to do is click on that report button. So since we're in the courses tab now, we just looked at those individualized reports. the next thing I want to show you is one of our top FAQs. And so what we get a lot, our learners are being enrolled based on these tables. And so we've, let's say we're using CASAS and we're going to enroll them in English K or English 1. But we take a look at the lessons list and it's like, okay, I know my learner is comfortable with 1 through 10. I don't want them to start at 1. I want them to start on, 15. In those cases, that's where you're going to want to use the courses tab. So instead of reports, we're going to want to edit that course. And each one of your courses has an edit button. So for Dakota, let's say on English Upgrade 1, they're on lesson 1. We can just click edit. And instead of 1, we're going to type in 15 and then update course. And now when Dakota logs in, starts English Upgrade 1, instead of starting at lesson 1, they're going to start on lesson 15 here. And so what we'll see is English 1, instead of alphabet parade, we know they don't need help with the alphabet. They're going to be jumping ahead to segment phonemic. So this is a great way, if you're looking at our lesson list, you've used our enrollment tables, that you can quickly go in, edit a course, move a student ahead to where they need to be. Now on top of that FAQ, what we get a lot is, what do I do if I want to assign certain lessons? So, one of my learners is getting ready for a test, and I've been working with them for a long time, and I know that there's 10 content areas they really need help with. So I'm looking at the lesson list, and I'm on English Upgrade 3, and there's 15 or 16 lessons on here that I'd like to assign. I don't want them to go through 1 through 60. I just want them to focus on a few. So in that case, what you'd want to do is they're on English 3, you'll click Edit, and then each one of our courses has 60 lessons. So you would just type in 60, update, and now when the learner logs in, they're going to be able to click on any one of those 60 lessons. And so if you've assigned 10 to 15 of those, they can just go through and only complete the lessons you've assigned. Now the nice thing is when they complete the assigned lessons, you can still see all that activity on the student monitor. When you view these individualized course reports, you're still going to get all that data on how they're performing on the lessons that you've assigned. So just a quick recap here, we've covered in the Students tab, onboarding learners. We've showed you how to do self-enrollment, add those learners as a teacher or add your existing students. Once we have those accounts created, we want to put those accounts into the hands of the learners. So we're going to click on print passwords. Now our learners are logging in and completing lessons. So the next thing you'll want to do is make sure your classes are organized. We did that in the Classes tab. We can create as many classes as we need to organize those. And now in the Students tab, we'll have this drop down where we can view all of our classes. Once all of our students are organized and in the correct class, now we want to track and monitor. Now we have smaller groups, or we have the groups that we need to see this information with. So the first one I showed you was the Student Monitor, and that's a great way to look at real-time tracking, see how your learners are doing. You can hover over those tiles for data. Once you find students or courses that you want to dive in a little more on, we're going to go to the Courses tab, and we can view those individualized reports, and we can also edit those courses if we'd like to move the learners ahead. So those are the first 3 tabs: Students, Courses, Classes. The next one I'm going to show you, I'm just going to cover this briefly, is Teachers. So for an individual teacher, the only thing you're going to see is your account. You'll see your last name, first name, your email, and then you'll also be able to change your password. You can edit your account information. This tab is going to be more important when you have an admin. So if you have a tech admin or a site admin that you'd like to monitor your entire Learning Upgrade account, they can view site-wide data, dive into any of this. Their Teachers tab is going to look a little different. In their Teachers tab, they're going to have a look at all of the teachers on the account. So they'll be able to retrieve information for teachers that have forgotten it. They can also monitor teacher activity. They can add and remove teacher accounts. So I'm not going to dive into that today. I want this to be more of a teacher training. But for any of you that are looking at getting an admin account to monitor multiple teacher accounts, I can work with you on getting that set up. So the final tab here is going to be Reports. So we've looked at Students, Courses, Classes, and Teachers. And then the final one we want to cover is going to be Reports. So we have some boilerplate reports on the left here. If If you want to just view some general information, like class hours, we'll just tell you how many hours the students have completed for each one of your classes that you've created. And there's a few others here. But what I want to spend the time on today is going to be looking at our custom reports. So the very first one you'll see here is the Student Progress Report by Date. And this is also our most popular report because this is a look at the student monitor, but in a table format. So what you'll see is, it's similar to the student monitor where each one of these courses is represented by an abbreviation, but you're also going to see information on hours played, on their average percent, and how many levels they've completed at the bronze, silver, and gold rating there. Some other things you can look at before starting to run your report is make sure you're in the right class. If you have 10 classes, hit your drop down and you can view those. You can also click all classes. So if you want to get a bigger picture of how all of your students are doing, you can just click the drop down and select all classes. For your start and your end date, you can set time parameters. So if you just want to look at the last week, the last few weeks, the academic or calendar year, set your start date and your end date, and you'll be able to view those. If you just want to see the learners that have activity, you can click any one of these table column headers and you can sort. So we can do hours played. And now we're going to see only our students that have activity here. And so what you'll see is you'll see last played, and then you'll also get a chance to see, as we mentioned, the total levels. So 73 lessons have been completed. And so you can see how they've completed those. You can also click on the hours played to see how they're spending that time. So we'll see their session information. You'll see a start and an end time. You'll also see the number of minutes and then the score. And so this is really important for those of you that are looking to track, that activity outside of the classroom. They're working in a computer lab with you, and then they go home. And you can see the devices here is all Android. But if they're also working on iPads, you'll see iOS. You'll see Linux for a Chromebook. You'll see Mac. You'll see Windows. And then you'll know which device they're using. And this is also where we really started to see, this term that we call binge learning. You'll see here that, learners tend to complete lessons in bunches. And so here, we had quite a few completed in a row on the 7th and on the 6th and on the 5th. And in a lot of our sites, what we really started to notice is how many of these lessons are completed late at night. So I always viewed this as like a classroom product, where they would be working on it in class or when they're at the dentist office, they're waiting for their kids to get out of school. But what we've noticed with a lot of our adult ed programs is that time from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m., that time before bed when they used to be on Facebook or Instagram, we're just seeing thousands of lessons completed once the kids go to bed. And so this is a nice way to see when those lessons are being worked on. The other thing you can do in this report is right now, every single one of these courses is going to be showed on a row, but to clean things up, we can sort and organize. And so we can do math totals or English totals. So let's say Dakota completed 4 English upgrade lessons. We just want to see the total number when we group all those English courses together. You can do that for math. And for just general time on task, what we like to see is all by student. And so even if they've worked on 10 learning upgrade courses, when we do all by student, each student is now just going to show on one row. And that was 17 for the English K. Now we've added all the course activity in there. And so now we're up to 24.5. Same thing, we can click on that and see exactly how that time was spent. So the Student Progress Report by Date, it's a really powerful report, but it's also simple. It's something that you can jump in, you can quickly set your start and your end date, view the correct class, and then start sorting down by course, student. You can view math and English totals, and then you can sort your table to view the learners who are active. And then also it's important as an instructor to sort the other way and view your accounts that haven't gotten started yet. And that way we can motivate those learners, make sure that they have their usernames and passwords. Maybe they're having an issue downloading the app. We can help them get started and make sure that they're getting that activity. So now what we want to go to is we're going to go back to the Reports tab. And so for the second custom report, you'll see this is the student time report by date. By default, we're going to look at the last week, but you can set this to any time parameter that you want. And this is going to be a little bit more detail to the timestamp data that I just showed you in the student progress report by date. You'll see the student, their ID, and then you'll also get the start and the end time. So you know every single session, again, the number of minutes, the score, the name of the lesson, and then the device. You'll also get these totals here. So we'll see how much time is being spent. So we're almost at 4 hours in the last week for this account. And this is a great way. You can view these for all of the learners in your class. And then you can also, of course, go up to your classes and view that way. For those of you that are admins, there'll be another option when you're an admin. So right now it says class, and you can choose all classes, and then you'll see them there. When you're an admin, there's another drop down that'll show, and it'll say teachers. And so once you're able to do that, you can select for a teacher. You can say all teachers, or if you have 10 teachers at your site, you can just select one. And then once you select that teacher, you can view that teacher's classes, or you can go individually. So as an admin, it essentially allows you to log in and view your site-wide data, but you can also go into each teacher's account and view and see exactly how their classes and students are performing. For the demo, again, we're just showing what it looks like for an individual teacher. But for those of you that are interested in the admin features, I just want to let you know that they are available, and I can help get you up to speed if you'd like to have that at your site. So then the final one in the custom reports is the student pacing report by completion date. And so what we're going to see here is, in this case, if you have a test coming up, and so if you have a test coming up or you have a goal, a lot of our instructors will say, okay, it can be really difficult, as we know, to get our adult learners to take a test. And so sometimes just giving information to the learner, but also as a teacher to know, how much time on task do my learners need on Learning Upgrade to complete their course? And so with this pacing guide, you can set your start date, you can set your end date. And so we're going to tell you, okay, if your goal is the 1st of December, we have 25 weeks until our goal test day. So 25 weeks away. In our classes now, we're going to show you the learners, just give you some general information on their activity. But now what you're going to see in this final column here is the number of hours on Learning Upgrade per week they're going to need in order to complete their course at a bronze level. So that means 75% or better. Our goal is to have them at a silver, which is 90% or better. That's when we really see those CASA scores jump. And the same thing when we're working with our math classes. If we have them on high set math, if they're ready, or starting them out at earlier math courses, if we can get them, really in there trying to focus on anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a week, that's when we really start to see the improvement. So if we set this a little more recent, September, we'll see now color coding. And so now we're only 12 weeks away. And so for these learners, again, they're going to need 1.6 hours a week in order to complete their Learning Upgrade course to be ready for that test. Now, if we're going to say July, now where color coding goes to red. Now we're going to need more than 5 hours a week per student. And so this pacing guide, it's a great way if you're planning on having your learners test, or if you have an event or a date coming up in the future and you want to quickly be able to see how your learners need to be performing and how much activity they need to be ready. That's where they're going to be able to utilize this report. So again, when we go to reports, we have some boilerplate reports here on the left, but the 3 you really want to focus on are these custom ones. Student progress report by date, that's that table that's going to show you all of their real-time information. Student time report by date, that's going to give you the session data with totals and their devices. And then the student pacing report by completion date, that's where you're going to see how much activity, how much time on task your learners need in order to be completing their Learning Upgrade courses. So that's the LMS. That's a quick overview of the 5 tabs. We had students, courses, classes, teachers, and reports. I also just wanted to quickly go back and show you, when you're on the Learning Upgrade website, this is the home page. in the main menu, what you're going to want to do, if you don't have a communities competition account, just click on pilot request, fill that out, and then when it asks for your communities competition team, enter COABE. For those of you that already have those, I just wanted to show you where I had those links again because they're really important. We get a lot of people interested in those, but you'll click on courses. On the courses page here, you'll see you can jump to content areas if you just want to see the course you're interested in, or you can just scroll. And then you'll want to click on the CASAS and TABE placement when you're enrolling your learners. You can also click on the lesson list. And again, that's how you see those. The final thing I want to show you is we're also including our whole class lessons at no cost. And so to launch those, you'll see the Start Teacher course here. And so, you know, let's say you're in the student monitor and your whole class is struggling on a content area and you want to play a lesson in class. Or, you know, let's say you want to just supplement the lesson that you have for that day. We have a lot of this in our adult schools and community college, you know, blended classrooms, where let's say today we're working on pronouns. You know, I'm going to lead off my instruction today with the Learning Upgrade pronoun song. Or for those of you that just want to get a look at the Learning Upgrade content without accessing one of your student accounts, you can just launch the teacher course here. And so the teacher course is going to be an unlocked version of everything Learning Upgrade has to offer. You're going to see the entire courses page here, and then you can click on any of these. So if we want to jump into English.
You have a gold certificate, so
here,
you can play any level you like.
Every single one of the lessons, and if you click on a lesson, then your options will come up. So, you know, as we covered in our very first training, we showed you the Learning Upgrade courses. They start out with instruction in the form of a song. And then after the song, the learners have the game component. So they have to get 100 points answering questions based on what they just learned. And so what you can do as an instructor is if you want to lead out your day, you know, like you're working on vocabulary, you can play the vocabulary song. Or if you want to start with your instruction, then you can do a whole class interactive game. And so this is really nice if you have a projector, if you have a smart board, you can just play the game here. And so you did your instruction, and now you can have your entire class participating in the game. And then when they go home at night, now they're working on vocabulary on their own. They've already had a chance to experience the lesson in that classroom setting. And so these are the teacher whiteboards, and we're including these as well in everything that we have for the communities competition. And so this is available to all of you. And so that's everything I wanted to cover as far as getting started and best practices for the webinar here. And so now with our final 10 minutes, what I wanted to do first is just jump back to our slides. And you know, you have my contact information here. So make sure that you click on that link in the email. And if you don't have an account, make sure you do that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by email. And Vinod has been monitoring the chat. And so now we're going to be covering any of the questions that we weren't able to touch on there. So Vinod, I'm going to let you.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. One is if you have multiple classes, so I guess either the same teacher or multiple teachers, then can you move a student between classes?
Absolutely. So in the same way that I showed you how to add students, you know, if you have 5 classes as a teacher, you can take students from one class and add them to your own. When teachers at your site add students, they're all going onto your site or school roster. And so when you click on Add Enroll to view the students, we're going to show you all of the students at your site, and you can click Add and move them into your class.
Yeah, so it's a matter, if there's a new teacher, you'll have to add them as a new teacher, then that new teacher can use Add Enroll to move them in. If it's between 2 classes from the same teacher, you can just use Add Enrolled and then remove them from the other class. Another question which Diane asked is, how long do lessons typically take to complete, and does it depend on the student or the level?
Yeah, so it does on both. So what we tend to see is, you know, we tend to see short end 10 minutes average, high end 20 to 25 minutes. So the first thing it's going to depend on is the lesson. So let's say you're getting started out with Alphabet Parade. Answering those questions are going to be more simple. You know, you might see a letter on the screen, or you might hear the voice say a letter, and then you have to click it. So these ones tend to go pretty quickly. Once they get up into higher lessons, let's say they're working on the quadratic formula for math, or they're working on like a KWL chart for our ELA lessons, they're going to be reading full paragraphs, referencing multiple paragraphs, listening to the voice, and then answering questions. And so those ones are going to take more time. And then the final component is just going to be where the learners are starting at. So for our pre-literate adults, you know, we work with a lot of refugee centers, and they're coming over non-literate in their native language. And so, of course, you know, when they start out on English kindergarten, just learning the alphabet is going to take a lot of time. But on average, we tend to see about 10 to 20 minutes per lesson.
And I was going to add that it's about, 20 to 30 hours per course for a student to go all the way through. What you'll find is a student with that's an English learner or special needs is going to need a lot more repetition, the mastery, and may take over 30 hours. And then a student who's just reviewing through may take 15 hours. So you will see a lot of variation, typically mostly to do with the struggle of the students, and a little bit also with the more advanced content taking longer. I have a question from Cameron. He's asking, can I add new teachers, or does each teacher need to request their own account?
Sure. So we can do it both ways. So teachers can all fill out that pilot request form separately, and then they'll receive an email from me. The other option is when I send you your pilot email, the final paragraph will give you instructions on how to add a new teacher. So if you're on our homepage at learningupgrade.com, next to login, it says new user. And so you can just click on that new user form, and you can create usernames, passwords, and accounts for teachers at your site. And so this is something that we cover in our admin training. But yes, it is an option. You can do it both ways. And if you'd like me to show you, make sure to shoot me an email, drew@learningupgrade.com, and I can show you how to do that. The option you choose will depend on how many teachers you're adding. So if you're just doing 1 or 2, I can show you that. If you're looking to do 20 or 30, that's a different approach. So just let me know in an email, and I'll be able to help you get that set up.
And also Danielle is asking about admin accounts. Clearly, if you have a number of teacher accounts, then one teacher can request, for example, to be an admin, or more than one teacher. They would be able to see all the teachers from their login and do reports on multiple teachers.
Yeah, and what we like to see with the admins is those are by request. So if you have a teacher or an individual at your site that would like an admin account, reach out to me, drew@learningupgrade.com. And with those, we just do a really quick phone conversation, or we get on Zoom for 10 minutes. And usually our admins are already familiar with the interface, and then I can just jump online for 5 or 10 minutes and show them the new features that their admin account includes, and some best practices on that. So for those that need it, feel free to reach out.
And Leah asks, can you add a teacher without being an admin? And you can. The instructions at the bottom of the email will have, your code for your school, and you can use new user and add teachers without being an admin. Being an admin is more about being able to look at all the teachers' accounts, print reports that are school-wide. Another question is, who designed these adult ESL lessons? So the lessons were designed by Learning Upgrade's own team. We have both educators and designers, lesson designers, along with programmers, artists, songwriters, everything else. And we use the standards, both the adult CCR standards and the K-12 standards to help design the lessons. And that's true for the ESL and the literacy, reading, writing, and math. The other thing we haven't mentioned here is that our courses are also used extensively in K-12. And so a big area of growth for us is called family learning or 2-gen learning. So if any of you out there are interested in enrolling both adults and their children, you can do it with separate accounts, separate login for mom and dad, and for all the students. So you can do that, and we can help you with it. Just reach out to us. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
If anyone else has questions, I hope you wrote down Drew's contact information. We want to thank you again, Drew and Vinod, for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. All right, we'll see you soon, everyone.